Okay. I had a few technical issues, so starting a few minutes later than I thought I would. But I'm back. Sorry for being a little inactive for the past little bit. Um, been moving. Semester ended, semester started, work. It's been a little ridiculous. Um, all that being said, I don't think I have any particular announcements or anything for this podcast today, this episode. Still not sponsored by anybody, so if you want to send me money to promote your product, hit me up in my DMs. So no sponsors, no nothing like that, and yeah. So I think I just get started. Um, Today, if you couldn't tell by the title of the stream or by the things I put on my Instagram of trying to promote it, why are my sleeves rolled up? Um, I want to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It has been pretty fun to be watching the new Marvel shows that have been coming out. WandaVision was great. Uh, Personally, probably enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier a little bit more than I did WandaVision. It probably has something to do along the lines of I was very skeptical to begin with of Marvel doing more TV shows. A few years back, there was like a surge in superhero TV shows, both from Marvel and DC. Yeah, Flash. You had the Arrow. You had Agents of Shield. You had all of that going on TV and stuff, and they weren't the greatest. I mean, they were entertaining. They were good, but they weren't the greatest thing to ever show up, probably because they were network television and that was just like endorsed by the studios and not done by the studios themselves, which is, that's its whole thing there that I'm not even going to worry about. Um, I'll be honest, when it came to watching WandaVision, I had to power through the first couple of episodes before I actually started enjoying it. Um, And I've heard some people say that, like, oh, if you didn't like the first few episodes, you didn't really like. No, 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 no. You, it's okay not to like a few episodes and still enjoy the show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, on the other hand, I enjoyed it from the get go. Probably because, well, to put it simply, I just enjoy action movies. And so having a TV show along those lines was is great. Um, it doesn't have to be the most well written story or anything like that for me to enjoy an action show or an action movie, but I still enjoy it anyways. But on the other hand of things, I thought Falcon and the Winter Soldier was written really well, to take the characters and the universe and where it was at, as the movies had ended after Avengers Endgame, and to really incorporate that into how people were going about day to day life in that universe after Thanos and everything like that. I thought it was super awesome how they wrote that and everything like that. It did feel a little, um, did feel like they, for lack of a better term, they nerfed Bucky a little bit. Um, I've seen a lot of memes and stuff on the internet about how when the character is a boss versus when you unlock them as a playable character, comparing like uh, Captain America Winter Soldier when Bucky was the bad guy versus how he acts now as the good guy, and like the difference and stuff like that. But it was still very entertaining to watch. Sebastian Stan does an amazing job playing the character. Really brings off the emotion of the character, And Anthony Mackie does a super good job as well, bringing off the emotion of the Falcon. And spoiler, in case you couldn't figure out, later on, the new Captain America. He does an amazing job at that because everybody else in the show is okay, not everybody else, but a lot of the characters in the show are like, they're super soldiers. They have all these connections. They have, on and on and on and on. And Anthony Mackie comes across really well as he's just a normal dude. And that is just involved with everything. Granted, he has the flight suit and stuff like that, which is cool how they incorporate that into his fighting style. I thought it was super, super good. It does annoy me when I see movies, whether they're just standard action movies or superhero movies, where they don't, even though the person has like all this equipment, they just fight like a normal person. So it was very entertaining and fun to see them actually incorporate uh, the flight suit and everything like that into his fighting style. It made for some very creative and cartoony, I think is the best way I can describe it, like cartoony fights and stuff, which is exactly what we're looking for in a superhero show, because it is based off of comics. Um, he does, so Anthony Mackie, he does a great job with all of that. A great job of just being a normal dude in the middle of a bunch of crazy shenanigans. What else did I really enjoy about the show? One of the things I enjoyed about the show the most is that it has some pretty serious themes in it, going on with their world in general, but they do apply to things that are happening in our world, in our reality, or reality, I should say, in reality today. Um, the biggest, kind of the main driving point of the plot, so again, another spoiler warning, um, is that after Thanos' snap and after Iron Man's snap and everybody comes back, there are a ton of refugees that are displaced because, half the world's population was gone. So everybody kind of moved around and gathered together to help build it back up. And then all of a sudden, half the world's population is back. People are living in people's houses that haven't been there for 5 years. People don't have jobs. People don't, nothing like that. So there are all these huge, there's huge problems with all these new people, all these refugees and stuff like that. There's a new, I think the best way to describe it is a new UN, a new like United Nations, um, that is supposed to fix all of that, to deal with it, that sort of stuff. Um, and the main antagonists of the show are a group of individuals that are displaced like everybody else, and they're just trying to get the they're trying to get the world back to the unity it was after in the 5 years of everybody being snapped away by Thanos, because in those 5 years, like with half the population gone, all the world governments came together, they helped each other out, so on and so forth. But when everything was back to normal, quote unquote, all of a sudden borders showed back up, wars started happening again, all that stuff. So the main antagonist's point was to try to bring the world back to that cohesion, that unity. There's the word I'm looking for. The unity that there was during the, what do they call it in the movies and the show? The blip. That's what they call it. During the blip, those 5 years where everybody was gone. So that's kind of the basic best way I can put it, basic pitch of the story for this show. So obviously it hits on some interesting things. It hits on um, you know, people that are displaced from their countries, people that are, they're not getting the help they need from their governments or any government really. Um, Often we call these people refugees, that sort of stuff. And there are other things that it hits on a lot too. Um, the first initial new Captain America that they bring out. Um, more spoilers. This is just spoilers ahead. The new Captain America they bring out, John Walker, um, is another one. There's a variety of people that are upset with him being the new Captain America. Um, Probably because he looks like they were literally just trying to replace um, Steve Rogers, the old Captain America. It was another dude who's, big military guy, blonde hair, blue eyes sort of thing. Like, he's the new Captain America, but he's the old Captain America, but he's the new Captain America, and stuff like that. Um, Personally, I can't remember the actor's name. Alan Walker, I think, was his name. Somebody will probably correct me when they listen to this and send me an angry message. Personally, he did a phenomenal job at playing a character you're not supposed to like. Um, those are usually good signs, pretty good signs of a good actor, is if they can play a character that you don't like. And he does that very, very well. It was a lot of parallels were drawn over the past few weeks of how in the first Captain America movie, the Doctor tells Steve Rogers that like the serum to be a super soldier amplifies everything, so good becomes better. Good, I can't speak. Good becomes better, and bad becomes worse. And a lot of parallels are shown that like Steve Rogers as Captain America when he wasn't like a military star. He wasn't he wasn't a big kid growing up or anything like that. So when he became Captain America, he was this weird case of he was still a good person. He had never really known power before, and so he still had his views of how life was, and he was just a good person in general. Versus the new guy was this huge, in the story, John Walker is this Medal of Honor winner, career military dude. Was like the football star at his high school before he joined the military, all that sorts of stuff. And then at one point, he gets the serum, and it goes from it goes since he had always been the best at what he did, whether it was when he played sports in his school or when he was in the military doing missions and stuff. He had huge success rates, won all these medals and stuff like that. Um, he starts hitting a point after he becomes Captain America where he starts losing a lot, and he loses at every single turn. And mentally, he doesn't really take it that well. And when an opportunity presents itself for him to take the super soldier serum, he does it without telling anybody. And because of the mindset he's in of, I should be better than these people, when he does that, serum amplifies that mindset, and he goes on to make some pretty bad decisions, and you know all sorts of stuff like that. um Even though I've been talking about a lot of spoilers, I'm not going to spoil that part, because it's very, good to watch and very impactful. Really, really, really good job done with the storytelling and the cinematography, especially in those few episodes where that happens. Um, what else did I really enjoy about it? I really enjoyed, at least how I understand it, I really enjoyed the message of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Um, and what I mean by the message is, I'm going to start with how I interpreted it when I watched the last episode last night, and then I'll go back and kind of explain how I got to that conclusion. And the message of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is hope. It's we can be better than we were. Um, so now let me go back and explain how I came to that conclusion. Um, One of the more prominent themes throughout the series of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the history of America and racism, which is, well, it happened and it's a really, really bad thing. And it kind of shows how even today there are some aspects. There's a scene, uh is it in the first or second episode? In one of the first, I think it's the second episode. There's a scene in the second episode where the Winter Soldier and the Falcon get into an argument on the streets, and the cops approach the guy. They approach them and they ask the Winter Soldier, like, "Hey, is this guy bugging you?" And he has to point out, he's like, "No, like, don't you know who this dude is?" That sort of thing. Um, all that stuff. So like, it's um and there is kind of a funny point on it where once they recognize him, they also get a notification that the Winter Soldier has missed like one of his parole things, and so he gets arrested instead, um, which was a good note. Um, there's also here's another big spoiler coming up, but it still falls along the same lines. Is there's another character in the show, Isaiah Bradley, who was a soldier after Captain America. So Captain America, is World War II, and during like the Korean and Vietnam Wars, there was this other soldier, Isaiah Bradley. He was part of a experiment group. Um, Again, spoilers. Another army experiment trying to replicate or recreate the serum that made Captain America. Um, um, for for some reason, it worked. Whatever they had come up with worked on him and didn't cause him. It was like a whole group of soldiers that they experimented on, and it didn't cause him. For some reason, it didn't cause him to go insane. It didn't cause his body to deteriorate or anything like that. So he was, in essence, another super soldier like Captain America was. Um, and the reason anybody even knows about him at all is because at one point, Bucky, as the Winter Soldier, had to fight him because he was like, Isaiah Bradley was the only guy that could stop the Winter Soldier during those wars. Um, and so Bucky introduces Isaiah to Sam, and throughout the series, Sam goes back to visit and to talk to Isaiah about what happened and why it happened, to learn more about his story. And you learn things that, like, after all the wars, he was kept in prison. He was experimented on to try to extract another serum from him to create another group of super soldiers. And you learn that from those experiments was how the new group of super soldiers shows up and stuff like that. Um, and one of the biggest things is that Isaiah is very frustrated with the country and the government because all this was done, and literally no one knew about it. And according to the government, he was dead, and he was also African American. And so there's a very heavy, the country did things that aren't good, that were pretty racist. And Sam learns from this. He listens to Isaiah a lot. He visits him throughout the show, and there's even a point where Isaiah tells him that because of Sam's race, they're never going to let him be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting person of his race would take up Captain America's shield in the first place, because of all the wrong things that have been done to them by the country throughout history. And even though this is a fictional world, there are things like that have happened for real. Not only in our country, but in countries around the world. In case you didn't know, I live in America. These are things that have happened. But Sam takes all of this, and this is where I think that the message is hope and that we can be better. Sam takes all of this, and he still decides that he's going to be the next true Captain America. But he's not going to be the Captain America that everybody's used to. He's not going to be what John Walker tried to be, where he tried to be Steve Rogers. He only had the shield, he had the helmet and the get up and stuff like that. Sam does get a new suit upgrade, which is pretty cool. That has, it's got the stars and stripes on it, but he still is himself. He still has his flight suit. He's still the Falcon. But this time, instead of just the flight suit, he also bears the shield of Captain America. So even with everything that he's learned, all the ridiculousness that's happened, all the bad things that happen, he still decides that he's going to take up the mantle of Captain America, because he, for lack of a better term, he believes that he can be better. I want to quote it, or he can be, maybe not better, but he can be a change for the better. I want to quote it, but I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong. But Sam says something along the lines of, there's no point of all the struggles we've gone through just to give up and stop fighting now. And I think it's very true for anybody who's in those situations. There's another very good and powerful scene at the end of the show where, after they rescue all the world leaders, they're like, oh, thanks for that are planning on, all this stuff to relocate a ton of people that were displaced during the blip and stuff like that. They were like, oh, thanks for rescuing us. We're going to go ahead and go through with what we were originally planning on. And Sam kind of smacks him in the face, figuratively, and tells them, he's like, you don't get it at all. And he's like, you keep putting these, for lack of a better term, you put all these labels on people, whether you call them terrorists or refugees, but you're the ones with, all the armies and all the guns and all the power. So you totally miss the point. You have the ability to be a change for the better in the world, but you try to keep it where everything is good for you. One of the good lines, something along the lines of, he said, was like, whenever you make these decisions, you're only in a room surrounded by people that are in the same situation as you, never people that are in a worse situation than you are. talks about how the main antagonist group, the Flag Smashers is what they're called, because I don't think I mentioned that at all during this earlier section, because I'm good at this and I'm totally a professional. He talks about how, like, these people, there were a lot of people that got behind this cause because this is what they felt you guys were doing, and they almost brought everybody here. They put you in a helpless situation. Everybody here almost got kidnapped and died. Like, so basically, like, even a bunch of young adults and teenagers were able to basically knock you down from the seats of power and make you feel helpless. Like, and now that you know that, now you understand to a small extent how everybody else feels. And he's like, but you have these abilities. You control the government, you control, the aid that can be given, you control the armies and stuff like that. Like, you need to realize what these people are going through, and you need to do better, for lack of a better term. That's my interpretation of it, and I absolutely love that. That the message is we can be better. The message, how I understood it, was a lot of bad things have happened, and a lot of bad things are going on right now. Even in reality, some of these topics that are hit on, these kind of heavy-hitting topics that were hit on by Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a lot of people will see them in what's going on in the political realm of the world and stuff like that. And the solution is not, well, I won't say that. I got to rephrase it. The solution that Sam came up with was, we have the ability to be better than we were. So why aren't we doing that? And again, I love that message, because nowadays a lot of things are, hey, you messed up, that's the end. You make a mistake, you're done. And that's not how it should be. We need to realize that people aren't perfect. Countries aren't perfect. Leaders, whatever leader you have, whether it's a spiritual leader or a religious leader or a political leader, or even just like your parents, or maybe an older sibling or a grandparent. Maybe it's a friend that you look up to and think of. Leaders aren't perfect. And even though we're surrounded by a lot of stuff that is happening, a lot of craziness that's going on in the world, and even though we might just be regular people, we can still be better than we were. And I think that's something that people needed to hear nowadays. I'm working on it myself. It's taken me a while. I'm going to be working on it for the rest of my life. But it is a message people need to hear. Now, there are probably going to be some people that hear this somehow and they're going to disagree with me. And that's totally fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions. Discussions about the whole thing would be great. But that's what I got out of it. And you wouldn't necessarily think that, like, an action show would have something like that going on. But it did. And I really enjoyed that it did. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was great that was how they managed to incorporate those themes and those stories into the show, even if technically it is just a show about a bunch of superheroes punching each other in the face. It was still wonderful, and so that was my thoughts on it. The only other thing I have to say is I heard some people say that like they felt like the last episode was a little rushed. Nobody really got conclusions. Um, Nobody really got conclusions on it or anything like that. And you know what? That's totally fine because not every story ends with the. Even though there was a happy ending to it, not every story ends perfectly how it should. Plus, they've already announced that they're gonna, there's another Captain America movie coming out, and they're gonna delve deeper into the characters and stuff like that. And so I think that questions people have will be answered then. They set up a lot of stuff for the future of Marvel, and I'm really excited. I can't wait to see the Loki movie, or not movie, the Loki show in the next month or whenever it comes out, because they've been knocking it out of the park. What do you think about the fact that they made Walker gay? I didn't think they did. They? I totally missed that. If they did, like I totally missed that. If they did, um, honestly, if they did that, still a good character. There's going along the lines of that with shows and stuff like that. If a character is gay or bisexual or transgender or anything like that, that doesn't make the character bad. What makes the writing bad is if that's the only aspect of the character. But if it's just part of the character's story and how they live their life, then and the show keeps focusing on its main overarching plot, then it's fine. So if they added that, I totally missed it, and I didn't think it detracted from the story at all. I just think just kind of sus. Um, I think they were. I think the whole problem with it was that he was being overwhelmed by his emotions after taking the serum. After his because again, as it stated in the first Captain America movie, the serum makes everything, it amplifies everything, including your emotions, and so um, when his spoilers again, when his buddy died, those emotions overwhelmed him of grief and regret and pain and stuff like that. I think that's where that whole aspect comes in. I might be wrong, but who knows? Those are just my thoughts on the situation. Hope you enjoyed. I'm planning on trying to do more. I have a lot going on, um, a lot busier of a schedule now. So I'm going to plan on trying to do more of these podcast shows in the future because it doesn't require me to sit down and stream a video game for like 3 hours to get views or anything like that. Uh, but I also enjoy doing this. Hopefully I can come up with more topics and maybe I'll be a little bit better planned out next time because for this time I just kind of sat down and I was like, I want to talk about this and I'm just winging it. So there we go. If you've listened to this whole thing and you thought it was ridiculous, if you haven't seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, give it a shot. I really enjoyed it. Um, and yeah, that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now because I have to go to work in 30 minutes. So, toodles. As soon as I get my outro music.